Thanks, everyone. My name is Jim Callback. I'm the author of a couple of books around design, service design, designing web navigation reflects my time as an information architect. Mapping Experiences is a book that I think might be most related to service design. I am coming out with a second edition of that book, by the way. If anybody's familiar with Mapping Experiences, should be out at the beginning of next year. I just released a book called Jobs to be Done as well, too. So I'm talking about that topic. And here at Mural, I've also co-authored a book around facilitating remote workshops, because not only have I worked remote for most of my career, I've also worked for Mural in my current job, and prior to that, working for Citrix, the makers of GoToMeeting. So I spent nearly the last decade not only looking at design and creative disciplines like service design, innovation, design thinking, but also about remote collaboration in general. And here at Mural, those two interests of mine, professional interests of mine, really come together quite well. So I wanted to kind of break up my talk first, just talking a little bit about remote collaboration. And I will, if you're following in the chat, I am going to put, I think I'm in the right chat here in Brella. I put a link to the ebook there, that last one. It's about 70 pages of our best practices here at Mural on remote facilitation and facilitating remote workshops. Because we do look at and we try to understand remote collaboration, beyond just our tool. And every year, or every 2 years, I should say, we run a survey. We haven't done it this year because of COVID, but we had been regularly running a survey just to get a sense of specifically remote collaboration and remote collaboration amongst designers as well too. And looking at different aspects of remote collaboration. One of them that is really important is the context of remote collaboration. So if you have in-person collaboration, and then if you look at remote collaboration, we've identified 3 fundamental archetypes of collaboration. One we call the split team, and this is kind of office to office or city to city type of collaboration. The other is mixed, where this is the star phone in a conference room phenomena. We have a group of people in an office room around a single audio, usually, and a single video source, and then folks dialed into that. And then, of course, the all remote situation. Now, in 2018, I meant to say, this is how the context of remote collaboration was distributed. And I think, because of the pandemic, we've pretty much, as far as I can tell, and somebody let me know in the chat if they're not doing anything other than all remote, but we've kind of moved to this all remote condition. And a lot of the work that I have done, both with Citrix, but now particularly here at Mural, trying to help remote teams collaborate better, trying to help facilitators facilitate remote sessions better, has become super urgent and super relevant. And it's just thrilling to me to see the resilience and the inventiveness that I've been seeing from our customers and beyond, to kind of really show that I think there's more possible than we had previously known. The pandemic, obviously, a kind of a terrible situation for lots of people, with all of the health issues and economic issues that we're facing. It's not something that anyone would wish on us again. But there are, silver linings and some positive shifts that we've seen. And if we are talking about remote service design, I think, again, that resilience and the inventiveness that we've seen in all kinds of disciplines is kind of proven out that digital collaboration has kind of a different place in the world. And what we're seeing is that, or predicting, is that the new normal is going to be a lot more digital, or we're going to integrate a lot more digital tools. Mural is just one of them. If you don't know Mural, it's a whiteboard. I'm actually presenting from Mural right now. It's a digital whiteboard that you can access right through your browser. But the thing that always kind of, one of the key questions in that survey that we do, and we are planning to launch this maybe later in the year or so, but that key question on that survey that I always kind of come back to is around quality, the quality of your work. Is the quality of your work better or worse when part or all of your team is distributed? And if you are in the Brella chat, I'd love to hear what some of your answers are for this question. This was a question from our survey. Is it much worse? Is it somewhat worse? Is there no difference? Somewhat better or much better? And the pattern that I've seen over the years is this is shifting. This is shifting towards better. And in many cases, the no difference has the largest number of answers there. So if we look at 2018's results here for this question, you'll see that almost half, or 45%, I should say there's no difference. So this is pre-pandemic, and people were already starting to get comfortable with remote collaboration and digital collaboration. And then if you add these here too, a lot of people saying it's much better. What we're seeing is that this is starting to trend towards better, actually, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on just a little bit and talk about are not only the burdens of remote collaboration, but what are also some of those benefits as well too. That I personally, have always kind of viewed distributed teams as an opportunity. Right. It's a challenge, certainly, but I think there are also opportunities. There are opportunities around inclusion, that you can often get more voices into the discussion than you wouldn't have otherwise gotten into the discussion. Also, agility, the ability to pivot quickly. If you're thinking and working digitally from the start, you can pivot quicker. That you don't have to fly around the world or roll up butcher paper or type up sticky notes. That if you're thinking and working digitally from the beginning, there's a certain agility that you gain from that mode of working. Also, alignment. That inclusion comes with more the ability to reach more people as well too, and engagement as well too. And that's what I wanted to show a little bit around engagement there as well too. So remote work is here. It's here to stay. I think we've all kind of faced that reality, particularly over the past 6 months. But I'm very, very hopeful, and I see a lot of opportunity. I also believe, by the way, that we are just starting to learn how to collaborate remotely. That I continue to learn from our customers all the time, even though I've written a small book on this and have investigating remote collaboration for a decade. I continue to learn. And I think we're all just kind of starting to go down this journey, and we have a lot more to do together, which is great. And it really embrace some of those benefits. The question I have, though, I'm just going to slide on up here to service design. The second big point I wanted to talk about. What does this mean for service design in particular? And kind of two observations here is that services are intangible. Right? They kind of exist in between artifacts and people, and they exist in conversations. And it's kind of the energy in an offering. You have a product or a service, and it's kind of the space in between. And the question has always been, I think, from the very beginning, is how do you design a service if it's that intangible? And the answer is really creating models. So I think a lot of service design is about modeling, whether that's a persona or a workflow or the classic service blueprint, right? And if you go back to the early days of service design, here's the Shostak example from her Harvard Business Review article, Designing Services That Matter, right? This is the blueprint for a corner shoe shine. There's another diagram in there for investing, things like that. That the approach to service design, I think from the very beginning was, hey guys, we got to map this out. We got to see this thing that we can't see, quote unquote, see this thing that is invisible by creating a diagram, by creating a map. In other words, this is a model. This isn't the service. This is a model of the service. But by doing this, now we can have the conversations that we need to have about reducing time, reducing friction, improving the experience, all of the opportunities that we want to get from this. Of course, this kind of modeling kind of graduated into the classic service blueprint format from Mary Jo Bittner and company. I think were the first to kind of pioneer this swim lane model, right? Rather than a flow diagram like the shoe shine there. There's a little bit of flow diagram in here, but it's kind of contained, right? Because everything's kind of kept in its swim lanes, right? And this has become the predominant kind of language and mode of visualizing and modeling out services, and it's highly effective. It's highly effective because you can grab a team of people and collaborate around this and get that team alignment, get that engagement here, and have a focused discussion, right? You can literally point to a spot in here and say, we want to optimize right here, and the people who are in the organization know exactly what you mean because they can see it in context. So there's that agreement that you get, and that alignment, that alignment across the team that you get from documents like this. So kind of putting those together and moving forward into the digital world here. I just wanted to focus on a couple of recommendations. I do have some tips at the end that I'm going to send around a link to a template that folks can use too. But I just want to talk about a couple of things that I think when we talk about digital collaboration, and again, I'm not just talking about Mural or any one tool. I'm really talking about embracing the possibilities of a digital tool set in general. I think what that means is we need to recalibrate a little bit. What worked on paper or what worked in person might not work exactly the same online or with a remote group of people. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see when people go into a workshop or a working session that then kind of leads to awkwardness or sometimes even failure is kind of a lack of recalibration of methods. That the tools that we use in the context, so I was talking about those different shapes and contexts at the beginning too, but the tools in the context do have an effect back on the methods and the techniques that we use to engage people around our models of that service, right? So there, I think, the digital first mindset for me is really a willingness to kind of rethink and recalibrate some things. And it's also about conversation. It's not about the artifact, it's about the conversation that you can have in and around any artifact or model that you create as well too. And just to kind of show this digital first mindset, I wanted to focus on the practical service design style of blueprinting. And if you're not familiar with this, Eric Flowers and Megan Miller have a group called Practical Service Design. That's the URL, practicalservicedesign.com. There's a Slack channel there as well too. It's a big group of service designers. I'm sure many of you here are members of this. But they kind of came up with this new modified version of a service blueprint that, instead of having swim lanes, relies on color coding. Right. So instead of keeping everything in its lane physically or visually in a swim lane, you distinguish different facets of information that you want to compare up and down. Typically, you have this alignment that goes up and down. They use this color coding for different aspects. So policies, observations, metrics, questions, critical moments, ideas, and so forth. And what you're able to do is chronologically, from left to right, you can map out a service. And then diagnose that using these color-coded sticky notes, right? So if it's a pain point, it goes in this dark red, or critical moment, I should say, it goes in this dark red, right? So this then becomes a diagnostic tool. The thing I like about this is it's also very digital friendly, because you've kind of collapsed that swim lane approach. You've taken away some space, so it fits better on screens. It's just slightly more digital friendly, I believe. So it takes some of the principles going all the way back to the beginnings of service design. Hey, services are intangible. In order to understand them, we need to visualize them. But modifying that as you go along and kind of recalibrating and rethinking things, how you're gonna actually leverage those tools and those models that you come up with. And I wanted to show an example of using this as well too. I have an example here. I'll just uncover that. And this was a session that I had the pleasure to conduct with Eric Flowers in the room around a customer support incident, or episode, I should say. And the way that this works is, like I said, it's chronological. Sorry, there we go. It's chronological, moving from left to right. You see all the steps in this service interaction too. But the thing that I want to point out is the conversation on top. You can see the writing. You can see the little comments here. There's some icons, and there's a star. There's some highlights that we point to in this diagram, right? And this was a conversation that we had between California and customer support folks in the Philippines. And what we were able to do is to get a direct firsthand account of service encounters and reflect those in the diagramming that we were doing. Normally, service agents in the Philippines would not have been flown to California, but through the cloud and through digital tools and modified techniques like their service blueprint, we were able to have a multi-hour session where we were able to have a very rich conversation, and the tools went into the background. That we forgot that we were collaborating over telecommunication and cloud-based technologies like Mural, and started to solve the problem together. And it was very productive. In fact, we had to have 2 sessions. There was only, and you can see this line here, this line down the middle. That was between the first session and the second session. So, there was no rolling of the butcher paper like you might have in a physical room where you don't have permanent space, right? And you don't want the cleaning crew to erase your work from one day to the next. Here, doing this digitally, we just opened up our laptops and continued on with the collaboration. But I think the point is, it's really about the conversation. It's not about the map. It's about the mapping. And thinking about how you can leverage digital tools to enhance that conversation, to get more input, to get better input, to get voices that you would have never heard before. Basically, there are lots of advantages, and I know you know a lot of these advantages to digital collaboration. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to embrace those and to amplify them as well too, because I believe our tool set is actually a lot better than our techniques for digital facilitation and digital collaboration. And like I said, we still have a lot of learning to do in how to make this really work, and how to keep creative collaboration going, and how to keep service design going, even if we're not in the same room. It's all possible. Here's a link that I can send to a template, to that template. And I think I'm putting this in the chat. I'm not sure if that's the right. But there's a Mural template, and I can go over to that over here, that you can use this service design template or service blueprinting template. If you've never seen it before, you can access this and bring it into your own workspace. But I want to point out, I didn't show this on the other screen, but you notice down here at the bottom, there's places to collect pain points, to cluster, to prioritize. This is where all the magic happens. This is where the action happens, right? You can get the insights from the research, map them out, but it's really about, how do I make that actionable? And again, using digital tools and collaborating remotely doesn't have to be a barrier or even a burden. I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of reinvent engagement. So just before I give a couple of tips, I just wanted to summarize some of my thoughts here. To rethink service design methods to be digital first, right? Don't assume that people are going to be in the same room. Don't assume that people have a piece of paper in front of them or even a pack of sticky notes. And I love sticky notes too. In fact, I have some sticky notes lying around right here. So I'm not saying get rid of your sticky notes, but the reality of our situation is right now that we can't use them, or at least not in a group. And it'll probably be like that after the pandemic and the new normal comes back. That will still be there'll be less in-person collaboration, and we'll need to be more adept at thinking digital first. But to find the opportunities as well too, like how can I get more colleagues involved in the conversation? How can I share the action items to a broader audience and get broader buy-in? How can I move and pivot quicker as well too, right? But also to embrace a continuum of modes of working. One of my key recommendations for working in a remote team is to meet in person. It's literally one of my first ones in a presentation I did a while ago. I said, hey, if you want to collaborate as a remote team, meet in person. So I'm not against meeting in person. In fact, I'll fly halfway around the world to meet with my team. Not right now, but I will. I have in the past, and I will in the future. And the reality is, we will be together in person sometimes, and you can use sticky notes there. But then we're not going to be together all the time. And the resilience, and I think the thing that we've learned from this kind of mass, suddenly remote work from home world that we're in, is that it's really a continuum of working. And a digital first mindset allows us to be agile and adept, whether we're in person or remote. And by recalibrating our methods, we'll be able to survive. Ultimately, work is not a place, it's what we accomplish together. And I put this here to kind of remind us of the goal, right? The common goals that we have when we're collaborating, and keep that in mind, and not let the tools or the place or the lack of a place slow you down, that we can continue to move forward. So I just want to end with a couple practical tips. I know I'm a minute or so over, but we recommend warm-ups. Warm-ups are a great way not only to get to know each other, but to get to know the tools. Use your webcams. I constantly run into company cultures where the webcams are not part of it. It adds a lot to the collaboration. Visualize your discussions, whether it's with Mural or another tool. Time box activities, and that's part of the recalibration. Instead of thinking in big chunks of time, break things down and time them. Plan for different modes of engagement. Use the chat, use polls, use Mural, use your webcams, use the different sets of engagement to keep participation going. And assign roles. So you can have one person looking after the time, another being a note taker as well too. And here at Mural, we're not just about diagramming, we're about collaboration. So we have things like a summon feature where I can call people over. We have a voting feature where you can get priorities across a group. And we also have a celebration feature, which lets you celebrate together as well too, because that's important for collaboration as well too. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Marina. I think I'm on time-ish. I'm a little bit over. Is that right, Marina?
You're perfect.
Okay.
Excellent timing. Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Jim.
Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
It absolutely is. And it's been really cool to see how remote work has evolved over the years, and especially the time that it's at right now and kind of the importance of it. So very excited to chat about that.